Wonderful. Good evening, everybody, and good morning, everybody. And I welcome you at the reading Voices for Ukraine. That is our next event to support our Ukrainian friends and colleagues. My name is Polina Sadovskaya. I'm a Eurasia Program Director at PEN America. We have a stellar lineup of American and Ukrainian writers. We have also a guest from Poland. And I'm not gonna take much of your time. I just want to say that this event was organized by PEN America together with writers Askold Melnyczuk, Jennifer Haigh, and Oksana Lutsyshyna. And I'm going to turn it over to Askold Melnyczuk, who is a writer, editor, the founder of Agni and Arrowsmith Press, and a professor at University of Massachusetts, Boston. So turn it over to you now, Askold.
Thank you so much, Polina. Привіт, шановні гості в Україні, Польщі і Америці. Good afternoon and welcome, friends from Ukraine and Poland and the US. My name is Askold Melnyczuk, and on behalf of my fellow organizers, Jennifer Haigh and Oksana Lutsyshyna, I'd like to welcome you here today. I'd first like to thank Polina Sadovskaya and everyone at PEN American Center for their dedication and hard work. Without Polina's commitment to this event, we would truly be lost in cyberspace. Our thanks to all of you who have taken time out of your day to join us. And above all, our gratitude to the writers in this almost unspeakably difficult moment. Particular thanks to the writers from Ukraine who found a way to be here against all odds. Within the past few months, Ukraine, a nation unknown to the West, has come into the forefront of the world's attention. Most people, I think, are prepared to say that they know little or nothing about it. For this deficiency in knowledge, they need not blame themselves. There are good reasons for it. The suppressors of Ukraine took care that she be unknown. They denied that she even existed. It would be difficult to imagine anything more reprehensible than this silencing of a nation, which by ancient right belongs to the European family of nations. But uncontrollable events have now brought Ukraine into the international arena. These words are not from today's media. The quotation is 75 years old. It belongs to British journalist Lancelot Lawton. During the 1930s, with a smog of totalitarianism thickening over Europe, Lawton was trying to open the eyes of the British public to the importance of the Ukrainian question in the forthcoming and unavoidable, as he wisely foresaw, battles in Eastern Europe. Though he delivered a special address on the issue in the House of Commons, Lawton's message passed unheard. The West completely missed his Ukrainian lesson and crossed Ukraine off its lists for many decades. When history's lessons are overlooked, it sends its careless students back to the classroom to retake the exams they failed. And that's exactly where we are now, with our unlearned lessons from the 20th century and our incapacity to recognize in what we watch and hear in today's news a linear continuation of the same historical plots that for decades have been deleted from our cultural memory. We face them blind and deaf, unable to grasp what's going on. It's a big temptation for a writer to play with counterfactual history, to replot events as if some big moment had turned out differently. For years, my personal obsession, quite a masochistic one, I have to admit, has been to picture a world in which the Ukrainian People's Republic of 1918 to 1920 didn't collapse under the Bolshevik invasion, and Ukraine, along with Poland and Finland, managed to preserve its national independence and cultural identity, rather than transforming into the drowned Atlantis of the European subconscious. One thing can be said for sure: the world would have been a different place, and in all likelihood, a better one. A lost country is, after all, more substantial than Bradbury's butterfly, and the multiple lacuna produced by the contemporary Western mind, with all things Ukrainian missing from it, remind me of a CT scan of a brain struck with arteriosclerosis. The risk of developing stroke is extremely high. The problem is, to see the holes in the picture, one has to be Ukrainian. and Ukrainians aren't particularly good at communication. For decades, it's keeping silent, not speaking, that our survival instincts have taught us. 100 years of our solitude, of our cultural non-existence in the view of the outside world, has left my generation of writers with a sense of irreparable damage. Even when appearing now on the international stage, we are doomed to remain at best half understood, like tongue-tied cripples, because the cultural context we belong to remains invisible to the non-Ukrainian people. These aren't my words. They were written by Oksana Zabushko in 2016. For 8 years, she has been a Cassandra trying to get the world to pay attention to what was happening in Ukraine in order to prevent us from ever reaching this terrible moment. We have come here today as witnesses to each other's lives, so that we will never be able to say to ourselves or to our children that we did not know, that we did not see what is happening in Ukraine today. Oksana is here with us today, and we will hear from her at the end of the program. Thank you so much, and Polina and Paul Auster next.
So I'm going to begin. I'm going to read a poem by Georg Trakl. It was written a little over 100 years ago in German. I have a translation by Lucia Getzi that was published in 1973 in English. The title of the poem is Grodek. In the evening, autumnal forests resound with deadly weapons. Darkly, the sun rolls over golden plains, blue lakes. Night enfolds dying warriors, the wild lament of their broken mouths. Yet quietly in the meadow, a red cloud, temple of an angry god, gathers spilled blood, coolness of moon. All roads end in black decay. Under golden branches of night and stars, my sister's shadow sways through the silent grove to greet the ghosts of heroes, the bleeding heads. And dark flutes of autumn play softly in the reeds. Oh, more arrogant grief, you altars of bronze. Today the hot flame of spirit is fed by a violent pain, the unborn grandchildren.
The next one will be Victoria Amelina.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with us now. I'm reading from Lviv, Ukraine, and I'm going to read not a translation, but my first attempt of writing a novel in English. The Road to Ukraine. To write about them in Russian would be only to further their captivity, their reduction to insignificance, resulting in mechanical annihilation. Joseph Brodsky, Russian poet. We sleep in a language if language doesn't come to wake us with its strangeness. Robert Kelly, American poet. The Light and the Letter. I simply wanted to tell you about the light, how I miss those patterns that the sun once painted on the kitchen floor when we were kids. Indeed, that's all I was going to tell you, Lily. But then I just couldn't stop. I kept talking until I told the whole story, everything you have missed. I kept whispering like a radio station that people only listen to by accident. You know, like the one our grandpa ran. New York Radio was its name. Everyone made fun of it, even you. I'm like this lonely radio station now. People overhear my murmurs and give me those looks, which Grandpa eventually got used to, but I kept noticing them for him. Grandpa would be proud of me now. I too don't care what others think of me anymore. Wherever I go, I have to describe everything to you, Lily. I've been talking to you ever since you vanished, and I wandered the streets examining patterns of light on the cracked asphalt, as if they could bring you back. I kept uttering your name when looking into abandoned houses' windows, startled by my reflection that looked like yours. I felt you near me when asking the stray dogs like a child, have you seen my sister? A young woman like me, only prettier with much longer hair and a motorcycle helmet under her arm. I didn't dare to ask people, not even once. The dogs just ran away as if they could smell disloyalty, the trait betrayed animals should despise the most. I imagine what you think of me, and you're right. Your sister turned out to be a coward. I had let you down and then wasn't really trying to save you. Moreover, I stopped your mother from searching. I wasn't difficult, as she was so weak, unprepared, and invariably drunk after you had disappeared. She would get herself into trouble just like you did. She's still pretty, despite all the vodka, and as brave as ever. If I had let her, she would have done the most reckless things in an attempt to save you. But would it help? Your mother has brought me up, but I'm not your kind. I'm different, Lily. I'm cautious. I'm overthinking. I'm indecisive. I cannot drive a motorbike like you do or did. This inability is the very reason why after you got your shiny Harley from Mr. God knows who, I worked my ass off to buy the old Ford and dared to drive the car, at least. I blamed you when I had crashed it stupidly, scared by a glamorous Mercedes signaling fiercely to get everyone out of the way. I just don't belong on the road. Or there's no road for cowards like me in Ukraine. I went to the bar you had worked in after dropping out of university. The waitresses, friends of yours, and the men, your admirers, all wearing black despite the hot weather, and those new aliens wearing camouflage jackets and guns, looked at me as if they all knew what had happened. I froze for a moment. I came there to ask if anyone could please help me find you. But amidst the unusual silence, I only asked, do I look like a ghost? Then I ran away, not waiting for them to answer. I'm sorry, Lily. I was never looking for you, but for a sign that the city would bring you back, like the surf could bring back lost toys to a child scared to go into the sea. There was no sign, just the sound of the distant shelling and howling, just the rumors that girls and women who have disappeared in the occupied city of Donetsk would better be dead. Are you dead? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. James Carroll is next.
My dear fellow writers, we all have the habit, don't we, of asking for each of the characters we create on the page in novels and stories, what do they want? That gives me my question in this brief statement. What do we, your fellow writers in America, want? And here I presume to speak for more than myself. First, what do we want for you and your people in Ukraine? Nothing of the big words. We want only an end to your being killed. We want your children in their familiar beds, sleeping safely all through the night, your neighbors and family members back in their own homes. We want your cities unbombed and your roads clear of invading monster machines. We want your old people to savor their memories of hope without being told those memories never happened. We want your 1,000 years behind to meet 1,000 years ahead, a future to match your past. We want you to write the story of how you kept your country and returned the world to its soul. At very least, we want all of that for you. And for ourselves, here the big words intrude because of you. We want to add our voice to the world's condemnation of Vladimir Putin's war crimes. Doesn't that go without saying? No, it does not. We demand that Putin stop now. For ourselves, we want a portion of the breathtaking courage you are displaying. We want to imitate the dignity with which you are standing upright. We want a recovered devotion to the democratic virtue for which you are living and dying. We want only this moment with you, without cheap prayers, false promises, or phony uplift. A simple being with you in this crushingly inadequate way, in the realm of absolute concern, in the face of the unspeakable. In truth, we are writers without words for once, except thank you.
Thank you, James, and please welcome Halyna Kruk.
Thank you. And at the beginning, I would like to say thank you for you all who stays with us in this very hard time. And I would like to say my poem, Gray Zone, in the translation of Olena Jennings. Gray Zone. That summer, then we found a hornet nest, and everyone who wasn't lazy poked at it with a stick and ran away. Father's old coat hung on a nail, put its heavy sleeve on his shoulder, and covering him as much as it could. That fall, when the sun set fire to the neighboring building, and no one except him ran to put it out, where did they all go? He understood that the overwhelming events of the horizon, preventing him from seeing the light, where the seams come undone, pounding and pounding at a single point. That winter, when in the eyes of wild dogs he stopped looking like a person, he forgot how to differentiate night and day, turned totally apathetic, warmed himself against a stranger's blood just to survive. Nature took mounds and mounds of people, found them, hid them. That spring, when the war ended, they shot the rest of the wild animals, dismantled the mounds, transferred some inhabited sections to new empty cities. No one knew who walked in the father's coat, who spoke to the surviving plants in the orchards, and the answers that they gave. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Halyna. Next is Yulia Fiedorczuk, please.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say that it's an immense honor to be here with all the great writers from Ukraine and all the other guests. I'm going to read a poem by Iya Kiva, who is a poet from Donetsk, who was my student last year. She was here in Poland as part of the Gaude Polonia scholarship, and I had the pleasure of being her mentor. And so she's right now somewhere outside of Kiev, from what I know. So I'll read my own translation into English of her poem. It's just a working translation, but that's what I've got. Good people ask, how is Donetsk these days? What's new on the front of work? Have you been in touch with anyone? I say, thanks, it's very nice that you care about the dear people of Donetsk. My parents' school friend's husband took his own life as it happened in the middle of a family reunion. Went to the toilet, never came back. My student friend's husband escaped to Western Europe, leaving her with a tiny daughter. He has forgiven everyone. He does not owe anything to his country or the mother of his child. My friend's husband's arm was blown away 30 steps away from home. He was going to get some bread. Man, provider. He drinks much, hates everybody. My friend's son was killed at a tram stop. He was 17. He never loved, not even a kiss. And as the Voice of America is telling me, as of the 20th of December 2017, the situation in Donbass has not, unfortunately, improved. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. Next is Carolyn Forche.
Thank you, Halyna. To the Ukrainian poets, Dobry Vachir. I would like to read one poem I wrote for Ilya Kaminsky, who was born in Odessa, and we traveled there together 20 years ago. And then I would like to close with something that is not yet a poem because I just wrote it this morning. Exile. If it happened once, it happened in Odessa. The city of your childhood rises between steppe and sea, wheat and light, white with the dust of cockle shells, stargazers, and bones of pipefish. City of limestone soft enough to cut with a hatchet, where the sea unfurls and acacias brought by Greeks on their ships turn white in summer. So yes, you remember, this is the city you lost. City of smugglers and violinists, chess players and monkeys, an opera house, a madhouse, a ghost church with wind for its choir, where two things were esteemed: literature and ships, poetry and the sea. If you return now, it will not be as a being visible to others. And when you walk past, it will not be as if a man had passed, but rather as if someone had remembered something long forgotten and wondered why. If you return, your father will be alive to prepare for you his mint cucumber soup, or give you the little sweet called bird's milk. And after hours of looking with him for his sandals lost near the sea, you visit again together the amusement park where your ancestors are buried, and then go home to the apartment house built by German prisoners of war, to whom your father gave bread, which you remember surprised you. You take the tram to a stop where it is no longer possible to get off. And he walks with you until he vanishes, still holding in his own your invisible hand. If there is ink for this hour, if there is something to say, to write that would send the tanks, the convoys and transports into reverse on the roads they have rutted, send them back. To the borders they crossed, send them back. And the hours too that have passed since dawn on the 24th day of the second month, send those hours with them. And the enemy soldiers dragging with them their crematorium and the corpses of their fellow soldiers they have left behind, and their own wounded too, send them back. If there was ink, if there was something to write or say that would raise the cities from the ruins, the apartment blocks, hospitals, schools, that would put the cities back as they were, I would give everything to fill my pen with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Welcome, Oksana Lutsyshyna.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read a poem in translation performed by Olena Jennings. Who is on my side, you ask? Who is on my side? This tree here, as if it could be against you, as if trees could be against people. A whole park of trees, a whole forest, you could say, and all are on your side, all of them. And the cat, is the cat against you? No, the cat is on your side. This cat and all the world's cats are on your side, all your army, nimble, yellow-eyed. And God's, yours and others and everyone in the world, wouldn't they help you? Of course they would. They are on your side. How could they be against you? And that teacher who said thoughts are everything, what's his name? Swami Vishnu Devananda, is he against you? Why waste his time? Of course he's on your side, on your side. And the sea, what, you think the sea is against you? All its waves and pebbles and beaches, visible and invisible, everything is for you, don't doubt it. Every day and every minute. Do you hear? The sea roars. It says to you, I am on your side, on your side. And music, which of the notes are against you? Which of the melodies? Mozart, rappers, pianists, the Academia Byzantina, Paul McCartney? No, what are you thinking? Everyone is on your side, on your side. And there is no one against you, and there will never be. And so love, keep on loving. Don't be afraid. Thank you.
Thank you, Oksana. Next is Richard Ford.
Thank you. Hello. For days, I have been planning to read my colleague Serhiy Zhadan's wonderful poem in English. It's titled "So I'll Talk About It." But this morning, I started to think, why read a Ukrainian poem to Ukrainians? Moreover, a poem in English. But then I thought that to read a wonderful poem to anyone at any time is a kind of blessing upon them. And at the very least, to read a poem from Ukraine to Ukrainians, even in English, at this extraordinary moment in your history and in our history, is to say that I see you. We all see you. So with those small caveats, I'll read my colleague Serhiy's poem, one that you all know. It was translated in this instance by John Hennessy and Ostap Kim. It is not exactly a war poem. Rather, it's one that imagines the restoration of the human spirit as being possible, which we all hope is true. It's called again, So I'll talk about it. So I'll talk about it. About the green eye of a demon in the colorful sky, an eye that watches from the sidelines of a child's sleep, the eye of a misfit whose excitement replaces fear. Everything started with music, with scars left by songs heard at fall weddings with other kids my age, the adults who made music. Adulthood defined by this, the ability to play music as if some new note responsible for happiness appears in the voice, as if this knack of innate is in men to be so both hunter and singer. Music is the caramel breath of women, tobacco-scented hair of men who gloomily prepare for a knife fight with the demon who has just crashed the wedding. Music beyond the cemetery wall, flowers that grow from women's pockets, school children who peek into the chambers of death. The most beaten paths lead to the cemetery and water. You hide only the most precious things in the soil, the weapon that ripens with wrath, porcelain hearts of parents that will chime like the songs of a school choir. I'll talk about it. About the wind instruments of anxiety, about the wedding ceremony as memorable as entering Jerusalem. Set the broken psalmic rhythm of rain beneath your heart. Men that dance the way they quench step fire with their boots. Women that hold on to their men and dance like they don't want to let go of them in war. Eastern Ukraine, the end of the second millennium. The world is brimming with music and fire. In the darkness, flying fish and singing animals give voice. In the meantime, almost everyone who got married then has died. In the meantime, the parents of people my age have died. In the meantime, most heroes have died. The sky unfolds, as bitter as it is in Gogol's novellas, echoing the singing of people who gather the harvest, echoing the music of those who cart stones from the field, echoing. It doesn't stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Now we're going to listen to Vasil Makhno.
Thank you for inviting me to this reading. Ukraine continues to fight against Russian aggression. Recently, I wrote a few poems about the war in Ukraine, and I'll read one of them today. In this poem, I describe a heroic deed done by a young Ukrainian Marine named Vitaly Skakun, who blew up a bridge and stopped the advance of Russian troops near Henichsk at his own life. This hero was born in Ternopil region, the same area I was born in. Ballad about the bridge, translated from the Ukrainian by Olena Jennings. They inform us that beyond the bridge, the Russian column wags its tail. The dogs of war are driven near. On the order of the Sea Infantry Battalion, the bridge is destroyed. The war is like this. Now our lives are like this. And so this in our right, and such are our poems. The sirens go off, regiment march, and the clay earth smells our Chernozem and the Kherson steppe, and the blood spilled will grow throughout the spring, and even bloom atop the ash. But today, in all directions and nations, weapons cool in the hand of man, and blood pulses, and battles, and one sailor plants to explosive in the bridge, which is now of strategic importance for the Ukraine of orchards and groves. He naturally runs down at its base, now sparring his heart and his legs. He runs like a fox or maybe like wolf, reports back that it is gone, blocked the advancement. Russian dogs of war stop at you and your tracks. And when the bridge broke like a wire and the hinges of the Hamilton gates cracked, they want to be able to fucking cross. And the sailor pressed his face to the earth. And if he was listening to small underground rivers and the organ liturgy of the Dnipro, I say, our poems are like this today. We are not cities, but battalions and regiments. Ukraine is on fire. We are that wheat tied tightly into sheaves. Our blood will grow on the fields and meadow because everything grows in spring. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you so much, Vasil. Next is Jennifer Haigh.
Thank you, Paulina, and thank you everyone for being here with us today. I'm Jennifer Haigh. My grandparents emigrated to the US from Lviv. Their name was Vasilenko, and I'm glad they aren't here to see what is happening right now. I'm going to read a poem by Wisława Szymborska in translation. The End and the Beginning. After every war, someone has to clean up. Things won't straighten themselves up after all. Someone has to push the rubble to the side of the road so the corpse-filled wagons can pass. Someone has to get mired in scum and ashes, sofa springs, splintered glass, and bloody rags. Someone has to drag in a girder to prop up a wall. Someone has to glaze a window, rehang a door. Photogenic, it's not, and takes years. All the cameras have left for another war. We'll need to build the bridges back and new railway stations. Sleeves will go ragged from rolling them up. Someone, broom in hand, still recalls the way it was. Someone else listens and nods with unsevered head. But already there are those nearby starting to mill about who will find it dull. From out of the bushes, sometimes someone still unearths rusted out arguments and carries them to the garbage pile. Those who knew what was going on here must make way for those who know little and less than little, and finally, as little as nothing. In the grass that has overgrown causes and effects, someone must be stretched out, blade of grass in his mouth, gazing at the clouds. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Wonderful, Jennifer. Thank you. Yulia Musakovskaya is going to be next.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for organizing this great event. And thank you for standing with Ukraine. I am going to read a poem from my book, The God of Freedom. This is the very first poem from the book we've co-translated together with Alana Jennings. Such love it is, a hot lump in your throat. It is without any halftones or relative meanings, loved not half-heartedly, but with the full sun and sea. It is loved hyacinth-like, violet-like, and unconditionally. It is so uncovered and raw, like an early morning. It is so striking, you can't tell if it heals or wounds. It has been promised. Your knees go weak and your armor is broken. It is like a long-awaited train stop that you missed on purpose. It is like a roar and a voice amidst it saying, it's just a thunderstorm. It is like a street musician that has been slaughtered at Pidzamche. It is like rammed boats and rivers that have gone shallow, like 155 children deprived of their father's care, like the names of the lost places which you are never tired of saying, like the highest grace and the worst curse ever, like the black grass, bird nests turned to ashes, and the whisper of the void. Such love it is that has grown deep into you and will never let go. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Yulia. Fanny Hove, please.
Sorry. This is what it is. Hi, I'm sorry. Not good at these things. I'm just very glad to be here with all of you and can think of nothing but what's happening over there. And so it's great to be able to concentrate at this level with all of you. I'm going to read a poem by a Polish writer named Ilona Karmel, who was taken off from Krakow during the war and was sent to the camps. And before she went, she wrote this poem. Number 16 Druga Street is still there. I am sure, crammed in between the same houses that were standing when I was a child. In the park, the maples bloom and droop, but childhood is gone, fast and for good. Who can say where it went? The world around shriveled up and grew small. I don't know how. Now nothing is mysterious. Nothing survived the pogrom and its time. Not the elves, sprites, gnomes, or little folk. They were not saved any more than the secrets in the drawers. The fantasies fell slowly, heavily, and brutally. The tub is no longer an ocean, the whale, nothing to fear, and the chestnut is just a chestnut. What is good fortune, I ask? Soon, fear doesn't lurk in the dusk. Darkness is tempting instead. The dangerous unknown looks good. A mother is superfluous. Farewell, childhood. Hello, youth. A splendid, gigantic world of stories and adventures awaited us at 14 when we still counted the years. And before a new way of computing time began, by days, hours, fears, minutes, menace, ashes, ruins, pain, despair, terror, suffering, murder. Yes, that became the way we measured time when I was 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Fanny. Next is Mariana Savka.
Dears, thank you for standing with Ukraine shoulder to shoulder. So we will never give up and we will be fighting to the end. The poem which I'm going to read is translated by Askold Melnyczuk. Who, Marlene, who? A spool of heart in a sarcophagus. The frames before that censored kiss, the corners of your lips rise wearily. Marlene, who was it wound your youth in reels, splicing frames to taunt the hearts of grave infants long past their prime. snow heaps, the unswept stairs of the shuttered film club. So who did you love then, Marlene? Whose forehead signed your palm? Who tattooed the bomb shelter's walls with your perfect Aryan profile? Do you hear, Lily Marlene? This melody, this song of songs, this stolen sweetness, turning back the miles, years, departures. On the rich movie screen, foxed with time, your smile, a palimpsest of ice. But who remembers who Marlena loved? Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Next is Irina Shuvalova.
Hi, everyone. It's actually going to be me sharing a recording of Irina Shuvalova reading.
Добрий вечір. Мене звати Ірина Шувалова. Evening. My name is Irina Shuvalova, and I will read 3 poems written in the past couple of days and translated into English by Halyna Jennings. Весна. В моїй, попри все, країні жінка, яку я не можу назвати на ім'я, чекає на весну і війну. Вона дістає із шафи наше спільне майбутнє, прикладає його до себе перед дзеркалом, посміхається. І тільки коли на задньому плані вмикається сирена повітряної тривоги, її посмішка блякне, в'яне, вона неохоче опускає руки, згортає наше майбутнє, ховає його до шафи, перечікує повітряну тривогу на підлозі ванної кімнати. Не сезон. Spring. And my no matter what country, a woman whose name I can't reveal, waits for warm weather and war. She takes from the dresser our future together. She holds it up to herself in front of the mirror, smiling. Only when in the background the air raid siren sounds, her smile fades, withers. She reluctantly lowers her hands. She folds up her future, hides it in a drawer, sits down on the bathroom floor to wait out the air raid. It's the wrong season. Коли ти спиш? Мені легше, коли ти спиш. Бо мені здається, що коли ти спиш, ти не можеш померти. Адже в вісні ти і так надто близько до того, іншого світу, де вже ніхто не стріляє. Тим паче, коли ти спиш, я не сплю. А отже, в певному сенсі стою на варті, якщо не тебе, ти так далеко, то цього дня, цього світла, на 6 годин попереду тебе несуться ранкове сонце, як стяг, що розвивається і над країною живих, і над країною мертвих. Їхні прикордонники розвісили гвинтівки на деревах, полягали ліниво на траві. Ці 2 країни ще не розірвали дипломатичних відносин. While you sleep. I feel better while you sleep. Because it seems to me that while you sleep, you can't die. Because while you sleep, you already are so close to that other world where no one is shooting anymore. Besides, while you sleep, I don't sleep, which means that in some sense I am keeping guard. If not over you, you are so distant. Then this day, this light, 6 hours ahead of you. I carry the morning sun like a banner that waves above the country of the living, above the country of the dead. The border guards hung rifles on trees and lie lazily in the grass. These two countries still haven't severed their diplomatic ties. І останнє, and the last one. Свої. Кожен розбомблений дім на фото спершу здається своїм. Кожна дитина, що спить у київському метро, має обличчя твоєї доньки. Новини стаються не з нами, стаються з нами. Жінка на фото, що затуляє розпачливою долонею жалюгідно скривленого рота. Я не знаю цієї жінки. Я знаю цю жінку. Ours. Every bombed building in the photo seems to be my house. Every child that sleeps in the cave metro has the face of my daughter. The news doesn't happen to us. Happens to us. The woman in the photo covers a pathetically quivering mouth with a desperate hand. I don't know this woman. I know this woman. Дякую. Thank you.
Thank you to Irina and to Oksana. We now have Siri Hustvedt joining us.
I'm going to read a sonnet by the Jamaican American poet and novelist Claude McKay. It's a tough poem. It was written in 1919. If we must die, let it not be like hogs hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave. And for their 1,000 blows, deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Like men we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back. Thank you.
Thanks, Siri. Ostap Slyvynsky, please.
Hello. Thank you for your huge support, for your good thoughts. We had a hard day and even harder night, and we really need it. I'm going to read a poem entitled Lovers on a Bicycle and translated by Anton Tensor and Tatiana Filimonova. Lovers on a Bicycle. She rides sitting on a frame like a bird perched on a branch, puffed up, mature, with two clenched knees that signal sweetly to the truck drivers passing by. Him we don't see clearly, but we hear his flask clanking against the seat with every pedal stroke. He's humming a ditty. Where did he pick it up? Which war zone? No one's parted here. She holds a handful of hazelnuts and feeds him without turning. She passes them back and he catches them with his mouth, which resembles a fringed brown patch. On the way back from the station, she'll be alone, looking like a paper doll, dry, straight, two-dimensional, used to making do with this love as she's used to making a meal out of nothing. A dash of tea, a couple of potatoes. She will ride through the first bout of rain, reading with her feet the overexposed film, an endless blank frame where he runs into the living room and spins her in his arms. So it goes, this empty language of love, bargaining with hope, like a one-legged chair with a stove. Let me be, at least, until midday. I won't live through the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ostap. Hajin next.
Oh, it's muted.
Hajin? Hajin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. So,
please start from the beginning.
Okay, all right. I'm very glad to be here to join my Ukrainian American fellow writers on this occasion. Although poetry makes nothing happen, we still can make people aware of the evil act Vladimir Putin has been doing. Basically is to perpetuate hatred and violence. I'm going to read a short poem by the late Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai, and it is called Sonnet. I don't know who the translator is. In fact, I went through his collected poems, but couldn't locate this poem. And then I went to American Poetry Foundation website and found it. But the translator is not listed. I remember 30 years ago when he came to visit the States, I heard him read. His lines flow with ease and music, but the translation somehow is very elaborate. The syntax is complex and the lines strictly rhymed. I'm going to try to read it carefully so that you can make sense of it. Sonnet, Yehuda Amichai. My father fought their war 4 years or so, and did not hate or love his enemies. Already he was conforming me, I know, daily after his tranquillities. Tranquillities so few, which he had gleaned between the bombs and smoke for his son's sake, and put into his knapsack with the leftovers of my mother's hardening cake. He gathered with his eyes the nameless dead, the many dead for my sake unforsaken, so that I should not die like them in dread, but love them, seeing them as once he saw. He filled his eyes with them. He was mistaken. Like them, I must go out to meet my war. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hajin. And now we have Marie Hove, please.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Polina. Thank you, Askold. Thank you, Pen. Thank you all for being here. To be with our brothers and sisters in Ukraine is a great gift. We think of you constantly. We imagine you, and we are with you. Millions and millions of people are thinking of you and imagining you. I'd like to read a poem by Oksana Lutsyshyna. I'm afraid I might be saying it wrong. I'm sorry if I am, Oksana. I have just recently discovered your book called Persephone's Blues. And there's a beautiful poem in here that holds so much life in it. It gave me great relief. My grandma Katerina. My grandma Katerina mowed the lawn every day for the rabbits, danced every day in the kitchen and in the garden, and still went to work as a guard, watching over some kind of factory. And during her night shifts, embroidered towels and napkins. You couldn't scare her. When my grandpa locked the gates and doors, yelling, "Go sleep in the street," she took out a secret ladder and climbed into the house through the window, waited in the garden, alone among the sleepy plants. My grandma, Katerina, carried such big love that when that love surfaced, totalitarian regimes scrambled every which way. The no good drunk men, all kinds of dirt and uncleanliness. It's not a joke that fear itself fell down, being afraid. The pots in the kitchen became very still. The air brightened. The curtains swayed in the wind. So the neighbors were amazed. How can this be? An ordinary life for an ordinary woman. This Katerina can do anything. The Lord God speaks with her voice. When she was dying, she didn't ask, what's next? She only asked, how are my children? How will my children be without a mother? And even now, the only place in the world where I am not afraid to be is in her presence, even if only in memories. This Katerina can do anything. Lord God speaks in her voice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie. Luba Yakimchuk is going to be next.
Hello, everyone. I've been living in Kyiv and I'm staying here to fight as a volunteer. I'm going to read you my poem translated by Svetlana Lavochkina, Knife. With relatives we share table and graves, with enemies only graves. One such candidate comes to share a grave with me, says to me, I'm bigger than you, I'm harder than you, I'm tougher than you. Sticks knife after knife into my stomach and below, knife after knife. He's precious spring-like, but he is smaller than us, he is softer than us, because he's only got one knife, and there are plenty of us at the table, and each has their own butt, and each has their own cut. Says to me, I'm a sharper blade, I'm a sharper blade, cut you, I'm a thicker blade, cut you. Chip chop, the last one is dead. Hold on, they say, hold on, and we hold on to our table from the gun muzzle. We all drink our bullets. We pour our enemy one, two. Thank you for having me. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Luba, so much. The next will go Tom Slay.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. And I think what I'll do is I'll read a poem by Seamus Heaney, which talks about the imagination in relationship to war and the kind of situation that so many people are facing now. It's called From the Frontier of Writing. The tightness and the nilness round that space, when the car stops in the road, the troops inspect its make and number, and as one bends his face towards your window, you catch sight of more on a hill beyond, eyeing with intent down cradled guns that hold you under cover. And everything is pure interrogation until a rifle motions and you move with guarded, unconcerned acceleration. A little emptier, a little spent, as always, by that quiver in the self. Subjugated, yes, and obedient. So you drive on to the frontier of writing, where it happens again. The guns on tripods, the sergeant with his on-off mic repeating data about you, waiting for the squawk of clearance. The marksman training down out of the sun upon you like a hawk. And suddenly you're through, arraigned yet freed, as if you'd passed from behind a waterfall on the black current of a tarmac road, past armor-plated vehicles, out between the posted soldiers flowing and receding like tree shadows into the polished windscreen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Jill McCorkle, next, please.
Thank you. It's such a privilege to be here to honor the great courage and spirit of the Ukrainian people and to condemn the evil hatred and senseless murder of this war. I want to read two poems. The second, very short, from writings of adolescent children from Prague who were separated from their families in World War II. The first, that bit of filth and dirty walls and all around barbed wire and 30,000 souls who sleep, who once will wake and once will see their own blood spilled. I was once a little child 3 years ago, that child who longed for other worlds, but now I'm no more a child, for I have learned to hate. I am a grown-up person now. I have known fear, bloody words and a dead day then. That's something different from boogeymen. But anyway, I still believe I only sleep today, that I'll wake up a child again and start to laugh and play. I'll go back to childhood, sweet like a briar rose, like a bell that wakes us from a dream, like a mother with an ailing child, loves him with aching woman's love. How tragic then is youth that lives with enemies, with gallows ropes. How tragic then for children on your lap to say this for the good, that for the bad. Somewhere far away out there, childhood sweetly sleeps, along that path among the trees, there or that house that was once my pride and joy. There my mother gave me birth into this world so I could weep. In the flame of candles by my bed I sleep, and once perhaps I'll understand that I was such a little thing, as little as this song. These 30,000 souls who sleep among the trees will wake, open an eye, and because they see a lot, they'll fall asleep again. Hannes Hackenberg died 1943 at age 14, and I'd like to go alone. I'd like to go away alone where there are other nicer people, somewhere into the far unknown, there where no one kills another. Maybe more of us, 1,000 strong, will reach this goal before too long. Elena Sinkova, born 1926 and returned home after liberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Now, Oksana Zabushko. Can you connect, Oksana? Well, it seems like there is some technical problem on Oksana's side. I think then, unless, no, I think we cannot hear Oksana. So we now are going to close our event. Thank you so much to all the offers. And I give the word to Jennifer Haigh to do the closing. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Paulina. I wonder if we could also have Oksana Lutsyshyna come on camera to share this moment. I just want to thank all of you for being here. It has been an honor and a privilege to hear your words and to spend time with our Ukrainian colleagues at this horrific time. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Oksana. I will leave it to you.
Sure. Thank you. Well, it was very touching to hear everyone read and languages intertwine, and most importantly, minds and hearts coming together, and we need hearts. And yesterday at a panel dedicated to the discussion about the war, a colleague of mine said that he refuses to just analyze the situation academically only. And I was grateful to him for saying that. And I think many of us are in that place, tormented and driven by both rage and compassion. And perhaps poetry is one of the best ways to address both. And I'm enormously grateful to everyone for their presence and their words and their rage and their compassion and their love. And I thank my Ukrainian colleagues who, some of them stay in Kyiv and fight, some have intermittent internet, and yet when I asked them to participate, they all said yes within the first 10 minutes. And thank you to poets from other places, American poets. Thank you for standing with Ukraine. We feel your support, and thank you to everyone who organized this event.
Thank you so much. And Oksana Zabushko, are you not able to? No voice there? No voice. Thank you so much then for everybody for magnificent readings, for your presence and for staying aware and continuing to be with our friends in Ukraine. There is a phrase that I heard the other day from Robert J. Lifton. What we should fear most is the danger of the malign complacency that settles over us as a war goes on and on and on. There are ways to stop it. Let us all insist. Let us all keep calling our congressman. Let us not stop trying to stop it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Askold. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all. And stay with us.
We're with you. We're with you.
Yes.
Promise.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Thank you for your
Bye.
support.
Thank you.
Thank you.